The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
After 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John his brother, and led him up this high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, conversing with them. Then Peter said to Jesus in reply, Lord, it is good that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud cast a shadow over them. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell prostrate and were very much afraid. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Rise and do not be afraid. And when the disciples raised their eyes, they saw no one else but Jesus alone. As they were coming down from this mountain, Jesus charged them, Do not tell the vision to anyone until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
It's good that we're here together on this mountain. Today, Jesus takes us up this mountain to get closer to God and reveal Jesus' glory as brilliant as the sun. What a great gospel for our pilgrimage journey. A little glimpse of heaven. Jesus goes up the mountain with his select disciples who get to see him in his full glory. In the Old Testament, mountains are sacred places where people encountered God, and the same is true here for us. God's voice comes from the cloud overshadowing the mountain, and God reveals to the disciples that Jesus is his beloved Son. Moses, representing the law, Elijah, representing the prophets, also appear with Jesus. The appearance of these 2 Old Testament heroes confirms that Jesus is a fulfillment of both the law and the prophets. And these apostles get a small glimpse of heaven, a mountaintop experience with them. Up here on this mountain, especially Peter gets this glimpse of heaven. He does not want to let it go like we do when we get our mountaintop experiences too. He's saying, this is awesome. Let's build 3 tents. I never, ever, never, ever, ever want to let this moment go, right? Peter had this mountaintop experience with Jesus, and we think to ourselves, what is your mountaintop experience? The Irish called these experiences thin places. The Druids from Ireland, ancient Ireland, places where you encounter the divine. These places are all over Ireland and many places throughout the world, but especially here in the Holy Land. What is your mountaintop experience? Israel and the Catholic Church and many others have built altars, altar moments, thin places, shrines in many places on top of mountains, rivers, and any place they felt that they encountered God and had a mountaintop experience. The Catholic Church is very big on these mountaintop experiences, aren't they? They build a church on every place that they could think of that someone had a mountaintop experience. And so they do, and we think about our mountaintop experiences. Every time I go on pilgrimage, I get a mountaintop experience. And I, like Peter, don't want to let it go. I want to do it again. I want God to encounter God again, to feel that love again, to maybe feel his prompting or feel him talking to my heart again. I want God to speak to my heart again. You know, sometimes we try to force our mountaintop experiences. And this doesn't usually work, does it? But I've done it. Did you ever hear that saying, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans? I've done that numerous times. I said, like Steve said yesterday, sometimes I'm a little bit like Peter. I just don't get it, or I want to try to force these things. Well, on my first trip here a few years ago with Steve and Janet, when I came here with them before, I really signed up for the trip, and I wanted to really do the Via Dolorosa, the Way of the Cross. I wanted, in their advertisement that they showed for the pilgrimage, they showed the pilgrims carrying a huge cross through the streets, the Via Dolorosa. And I wanted to do that. And I know that sometimes you go on these pilgrimages and you're with some older people, and I thought, I wanted to do the whole way. And I let you guys touch the cross a little bit, but I wanted to carry it the whole way. So I spent 3 months working out, doing squats and things like that, working out, lifting some weights. And I was going to get, so when we got up early, Steve got us up early to go to the Via Dolorosa and up in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And I was the first one off the bus. I made sure I was the first one off the bus to grab the cross. And so I got off the cross, and Steve handed me the cross. It was this. I have never been so disappointed. I worked out for months, and I thought, what am I doing with this? I didn't know what to do with this. I was just disappointed. But just as I was having a pity party for myself, there was a lady on our group that wasn't walking very well. She had an oxygen tube, and she was going to walk that 3/4 of a mile through those cobblestone streets of Jerusalem. Her name was Pat, and I carried her. I lifted her up the stairs. I carried her through the thing. And you know, isn't that what God would want us to do? Is to carry each other, not carry the cross, but He wants us to be in service for each other. And that's what Legatus is. When we know our calling, we know that we are to serve one another. And we had a special relationship after that. But I carried her through those streets into the Holy Sepulchre. And I thought that that's really what God wanted us to do. So Jesus is on his way from here to Jerusalem. He, Peter, James, and John needed this mountaintop experience because they were going to go through some trials later on. And the cross is very important to that. When was your mountaintop experience? Maybe home, birth of a child, or grandchild, a wedding, or the death of a loved one? When you fell in love? A homily by a big, strong, funny, good-looking deacon? What's your mountaintop experience? Maybe it's in Galilee, at the Sea of Galilee, watching the sunset this morning, at the Wailing Wall, in Gethsemane, the Via Dolorosa, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where the cross was. I've heard many pilgrims over and over again state that they've had mountaintop experiences while here on this pilgrimages. And sometimes our mountaintop experiences come when we least expect them. But we should let ourselves be open to the Holy Spirit, to ask God to give you this mountaintop experience on this pilgrimage. Don't search for it or try to make it happen like Deacon Dennis does. Be open. Let it come to you. Pray, discern, and it will come. Father Chris thinks that his mountaintop experience, his calling might be insignificant. However, for those of us who heard it yesterday, nothing could be further from the truth. Steve and Janet Ray, like Peter, Steve said it yesterday, they gave up who they were before to hold on to Jesus like Peter did, to build these tents all over Jerusalem, wherever they can, building tents. They're altar moments, they're thin places, creating mountaintop experiences for themselves, yes, but for all of us who come and everyone that will listen to him. And some people that don't even want to listen to him, right? Finally, when you get your mountaintop experience, or remember your mountaintop experience, write it down. Tell your story. Tell it to your children, your grandchildren, or like Steve and Janet, to anyone who will listen. That's evangelization. That's the reason for our hope, is your story and how God touched your heart. Peter says that in the first reading. He was here. What is your mountaintop experience? The best may be yet to come. And we ask the Holy Spirit to come and fill us with that and help us achieve our mountaintop experience. This is my Son, my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever.